Namaste and welcome to Beyond the Obvious, a program that I want to start speaking about on aspects where everything that you see may not necessarily be true, and it's important to go behind the topic and study about it and then speak more about it. Today's topic that I want to speak about is the war games, what is happening in the Middle East between Israel and the entire Middle East. So just a quick recap, I'm sure everyone is aware. October 7th, which was a Saturday, Palestinian terrorists under the title of Hamas entered Israel and killed over 1,500 people. And it didn't matter who you were. You could be a grandmother or a child or a father or a son or an army man or any civilian. In fact, other nationalities were killed as well. First of all, the attack in itself, 1,500 log entered, and they entered from air, land and sea. All three theaters, which is air, land and sea, and 1,500 people coming in, actually is not an act of terrorism, it's an act of war. Because you're literally entering with a set of 1,500 people who've been trained for over 2 years maybe to infiltrate, to attack and kill. So you got to understand that this kind of an act of war takes years of planning, and it's no longer just a section of people doing this. It has to have had state sponsorship, maybe overtly or covertly, but it could not have been done in isolation. Some of these countries have even gone and supported this act of war. The fundamental point I want to speak about is, what does it lead to? What is all this going to lead to? When you go into a war, there are only two reasons you go into a war. Because you're going to win it or you're going to lose it. My guess is this time Hamas went into an act of war because they were losing it. What I mean to say is that the Saudis were going to sign a peace treaty with the Israelis, which would have made the entire Palestinian cause go for a 6. And they couldn't have afforded that, which is why it prompted the entire Hamas structure along with their sponsors to plan for this attack and make this like a final act of war. This has left Israel with no choice but to go for one final act, which is the end of Hamas. But I think when you enter with 1,500 people and plan for it for years, you do something known as war game, which is gamification of response, which basically means this has been studied over and over again as to what the Israeli response would be. After knowing that the Israeli response would be all out backlash, yet the attack was given the green light, yet everyone was killed, yet children were beheaded, which basically means it has been decided that the response will be severe, and yet the act went through. And that gets me to the point that this is no longer going to be an isolated, kind of restricted within a section of the Israeli troops and Hamas. This will become much wider because the support structure for Hamas will kick in. Because the support structure in the form of Hezbollah, the support structure in the form of Iran and Qatar will kick in, probably even Egypt, Syria and Lebanon. So what it means is that somehow that the Middle East will have to put in their resources, they will have to get into this war. There is no way out. Otherwise, Hamas will be decimated, finished. That is something which probably the state actors will not allow for. The response is going to be so severe that there will be no option but to get involved, which is why you see that the Americans have given all-out support. They've got 2 battle carrier groups. You've got the French, the British, all kind of coming in and supporting. But you also see the flip side, that the Russians and Chinese are asking for ceasefire and they're asking for the 2-state solution. I'm not saying that the 2-state solution is a bad idea. All I'm saying is that the response that has been gamed is that this will stop. But I don't think this is going to stop. The fight to the finish is going to be extremely costly for civilians. It's going to have severe impact on inflation. Costs of probably energy will go up. It also means that capital markets could see an impact both in India and globally. While we are insulated and we don't have a direct impact because of this event, the world is too connected and it's not possible that we stay insulated for too long. It will involve multiple forces coming together, and that's not good news for a world which has just finished COVID and is struggling with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And on top of it, then you end up with this third piece, which is the entire Middle East coming together in a very serious attempt of warfare. It's not a very optimistic scenario. Nations are even struggling to call Hamas out and their act as gruesome, which is, just shows how polarized the world is. So time to be careful, time for a nation like India to be extremely careful at its borders. For us, we have two neighbors who keep us on tenterhooks always, and hence our preparedness has to be at the highest level. And then as an investor, just be extra cautious, because these are not really the best of times, can lead to a little bit of a volatility over the next 2 to 3 years. So thanks for listening to me on Beyond the Obvious. We'll be back soon. Thank you.